All righty. Good morning, commissioners, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Could you please do the formal honors?
Certainly, Chair Harrington, if we could quiet down the auditorium, thank you. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as all other county service districts, is meeting this regular session May 19th, 2026. Commissioner Snyder?
Here.
Commissioner Treese?
Here.
Commissioner Fye?
Present.
Vice Chair Willie?
Here.
Chair Harrington?
Here. Thank you. Would everyone who is please able to stand, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have 6 people signed up for the initial public communications section for the meeting. We're usually limited to 10 minutes, but we're going to proceed with the 6, so please be timely in coming up to the table. Clerk Moss, could you please announce our first speakers?
Certainly, Chair Harrington. The first 2 we have is Tim Hayner and Alan Applin. Come forward.
And the next 2 will be?
Is Jessica Mayaka and Mary Halakiopoulos.
I didn't catch last names, so Tim, you're up first, followed by Alan.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the Walker Road project. My name is Tim Hayner. I work for Kerr Contractors, the second lowest bidder on this project. I've previously been a Washington County resident for more than 7 years. Kerr has evaluated the bid tabulations and has demonstrated Tapani's bid pricing was deliberately manipulated and is not simply typical bid price variation. The price difference between Tapani and Kerr represents significant underbidding in the Schedule B items compared to Kerr and the third and fourth place bidders, and significant overbidding of Schedule A items. If the project is awarded to Tapani, Washington County voters will pay significantly more than they would with Kerr or the third and or fourth bidder for the Schedule A work. Also, the city of Beaverton will be paying nearly $790,000 less than their fair share of the cost of construction on Schedule B. Because of Tapani's unbalanced bid, it is likely that the project will experience significant quantity overruns in Schedule A cost items, further damaging the county voters while widening the funding gap between county and the city. The engineer denied Kerr's protest in part on the assumption that it can control overruns. This is not likely given the quantity variation of unit-priced items. The Schedule A quantities are estimated and will be whatever is required to complete the project and leave the county open to inflated costs and windfall to Tapani at the county's expense. By contrast, Kerr's balanced bid is only $145,000 more than Tapani's total bid. It provides better protection from cost overruns, and because it is better balanced, it will require the city to pay its fair share of the project costs. It is our hope that the Commission will recommend that the county procurement and construction team revisit the unbalancing and recognize the severity of the additional costs that the county voters will be paying for the same work. Kerr's pricing represents a balanced approach with both the county and the city of Beaverton each paying their fair share of costs. We believe the project should then be awarded to Kerr Contractors. Thank you.
If you have your written testimony, if you'd like to leave that with Clerk Moss, we'll have our county staff and county council look into it. Thank you.
Very good.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for the commissioners to allow me to speak on the Northwest Walker Road Ward. My name is Alan Applin. I work for Kerr Contractors. I live in Tualatin and have for 21 years. Kerr Contractors obviously bid this project. There were 3 schedules, one benefiting Washington County, one benefiting the city of Beaverton, and one benefiting the Tualatin Valley Water. Our bid was $145,000 more, or 0.8%, than the apparent low bidder Tapani. We protested this job because we could determine that there was Tapani's efforts to substantially underbid Schedule B, which benefits the city of Beaverton. When the bid is materially unbalanced, the county can find it to be non-responsive and reject it. Tappaney's bid is materially unbalanced. If you use the figures from both Tappaney's and Kerr's bid, Washington County will be paying $644,000 more for the county portion of the work, while simultaneously saving the city of Beaverton about $790,000. This kind of bid, when there's changes during the course of construction, will disproportionately be more punitive for Washington County, while the city of Beaverton is not paying its share. I know this is an important project, and I know the time is of the essence. However, there needs to be some deliberate consideration regarding the risk to Washington County associated with obvious bid manipulation. The city of Beaverton is not going to pay any more for the work than what is in the bid that Tappaney submitted. And again, the underbalancing of these prices for Schedule B result in the county paying more for their work while subsidizing the city of Beaverton. I respectfully ask that Washington County review the cost data provided in our letter of protest to better inform the commissioners of the cost impact of this award. And if you should agree that Tappaney's bid represents material unbalancing, refer the matter back to the County Administrative Office for further review and consideration of Kerr's protest. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you could also leave your written
I will be happy
testimony
to
with
do
the
that.
clerk, that would be great. Okay, next we have, as Clerk Moss called out, Jessica and Mary. Mary Hokiopoulos, yours is the only last name I caught of those four, so my apologies to you, Ms. Jessica.
Thank you, Chair Harrington and the Commissioners. I appreciate you taking the time to read the letter that I submitted last week, which goes into further detail on what I'm covering today. My name is Jessica Miyake, and I'm here on behalf of the ESPD Advisory Committee in support of the Washington County Sheriff's Office during this budget cycle. Recent community survey data shows that safety and justice is the #1 service residents expect from the county, cited by 63% of the respondents. Our residents don't just want to be safe, they want to feel safe. This past November, during a time of real economic uncertainty, our community passed Measure 34-346, the Public Safety Levy Replacement, through June 2031. And that's a strong signal, and it's one that we all have the opportunity to build on together. Adequate staffing is about more than emergency response. It's what gives deputies the capacity to do the real work of community policing, building relationships, engaging schools, partnering with service providers, and showing up before a crisis happens. Washington County is the most diverse county in Oregon, and the Sheriff's Office has worked hard to serve all of our communities with professionalism and compassion. That trust takes years to earn, and continued support in this budget means that we get to keep building on it. Our residents live, work, and go to school across this entire county without thinking about jurisdictional boundaries. Public safety works the same way. Last year, we saw nearly a threefold increase in forced releases from the jail, a system-wide concern that adequate staffing would directly address. We share the commitment to a one Washington County approach, and we're asking you to fully support the Sheriff's Office in this fiscal year 2026-27. Thank you.
And just so I have your attention right now, addressing us today only gets you half of the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee meeting has a public hearing tomorrow for adopting the Washington County budget, and that Budget Committee will be meeting tomorrow afternoon, so Wednesday, May 20th, and you can find the meeting packet for that on our meeting portal, just like you were able to find it for today's meeting.
Okay,
But
thank you.
the Budget Committee will be supplied this letter, just like the board received it as well. But if you have the time to attend during the public hearing, and that time is posted on the agenda, please do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Mary, for the delay. Please go
No
ahead.
problem. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. I'm Mary Halkiopoulos, a Washington County resident. A couple of weeks ago, Dr. Frank said that we would be starting to read cases of fraud and illegal votes and so forth, and here we go. This is numbers 1 and 2. Potential fraud cases. Berwin Alfred Robertson lived at 17691 Southwest Frederick Lane in Sherwood. He was born March 25th, 1929, and died on December 2nd, 2018. His obituary was published in the Oregonian. Ballots were cast in his name in 2 elections after his death, on May 21st, 2019, and the November 5, 2019 elections. He was also sent a ballot for the following May 2020 election, but it was not returned. His record was changed to inactive at that time, and he remained on the Washington County voter rolls. Washington County citizens submitted obituary proof of his death to the Washington County Elections Office in April 2023, and his record was removed from the voter rolls sometime before September of 2023. A review of the cancellation report, however, showed that instead of the record being canceled in 2023, the cancellation was backdated to his date of death, December 2nd, 2018. This falsification of the record would make it impossible to see that ballots had been submitted after his death. This information has been shared with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, along with supporting documentation, including but not limited to Mr. Robertson's obituary, copy of Washington County January voter rolls with history, and copy of December 23rd Washington County cancellation report. Thank you.
Clerk Moss, who do we have up next?
All right, the last 2 we have is Jill Latre and Dale Feek.
Good to see you both again. When you're ready, Jill. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Jill Latre, a resident of Washington County. This morning I will read potential fraud cases number 3 and 4, double voters, into the record. Federal and state laws prohibit a person from voting more than once in the same election. Ballots were cast for the November 2024 election for both Chanel Ray Bazad and Selchuk Bazad in 2 locations, Washington County, Oregon, and Humboldt County, California. Their local residential address is 6436 Southwest Fountain Grove Terrace, Beaverton, and their California residential address, 1240 Mason Way, McKinleyville, is listed as their mailing address on the Washington County voter rolls. The voter rolls in both Washington County and Humboldt County show Mr. and Mrs. Belzade listed at the same addresses and with the same voting patterns. Both individuals are currently listed on the May 2026 Washington County voter rolls. Ms. Bazad is inactive and Mr. Belzade is shown as active. A third person is also listed on the current voter rolls at the Beaverton address. Public records show the third registered voter purchased the Belzade's Washington County property in January 2026. Information on both double voters has been shared with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, along with supporting documentation, including but not limited to the copy of the January 2025 Washington County, Oregon voter rolls with history, copy of the December 2024 Humboldt County, California voter rolls with history, and double voting summary documented based on a comparison of the state voter rolls and the national change of address data. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Feek.
Chair Harrington and Commissioners, Dale Feek. I sent you an email earlier this morning. In front of you is a little bit of summary of that. It's from Senator Jeff Merkley. He said, today is Oregon's primary election, and in Oregon we've been voting by mail by decades. But now Donald Trump is trying to eliminate vote by mail by executive order. President Trump's executive order, which has been challenged as unconstitutional, would limit the Postal Service to sending only the ballots of voters deemed eligible. Let's be clear, Senator Merkley says. Vote by mail is safe, trusted, and used successfully by millions of Americans, including here in Oregon. Because of it, we consistently have some of the highest voting turnout rates in the nation. That's what happens when you make voting accessible and secure. Vote by mail leaves a paper trail, prevents long lines at polling places, and ensures that every eligible voter can have their say. Trump wants everyone to have to vote on Election Day because it is very easy to suppress the vote in targeted precincts and manipulate the outcome of Election Day. Reduce the number of polling places, constantly moving their locations, putting them in areas with little parking, understaffing them, or using faulty machines all create long lines so fewer people can have to wait to vote. This kind of Election Day suppression is common in many parts of the country and deeply undermines our democracy. But we don't have to let them strip Americans of this freedom. That's why Senator Merkley is championing legislation to safeguard and expand access to the ballot box, strengthen election security, and make vote by mail the law of the land. Voting is a right, not a privilege, and it should be accessible and easy for every American, no matter your zip code. And I'm asking you, add your name to tell Trump to keep his hands off your right to vote by mail. And there's a link, what I sent you to do that. Anybody in the audience wants more information, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's our first public communication session for today's meeting. We have a subsequent one later on the agenda. Next, we'll consider our consent agenda. We had 2 items added to the consent agenda since the first publication of today's agenda. So in summary, that's items 12 and 13. So in summary, that brings us to a consent agenda with 13 items, of which 3 are minutes. 1 is from assessment and taxation, 1 from finance, 3 from land use and transportation, 4 from facilities, fleet, and parks, and 1 from the human resources department. What are the wishes of the commission?
Chair, I'd like to ask that we pull item D6 based on the information we heard and have later on in the meeting, maybe we could have a process update from County Council or from LUT as to what that would look like before we vote on that item.
Thank you. I really appreciate your raising that because during the testimony I was trying to see if that was something we approved last week or on the agenda today, and I missed it. So
I'm going to second the motion because I was about to make the same motion.
that sounds great.
Yeah, thank you.
So that will leave us with a consent agenda of 12 items. So reducing the land use and transportation list down to 2 items. So that means we have a motion already to adopt the consent agenda with 12 items.
No, that was not a motion. That was a motion to pull.
You don't need a motion to pull. All you have to do is ask.
Okay.
Yeah. So
We're good with that?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda without 6D
Yep.
on it.
Yep. And 6D will move to action for discussion. So we'll be asking both our county council, our county acting county administrator, and our LUT director to come up at that time. That will be, we don't have an action item today, so we'll take it after the public hearings, but before the public communications section. Okay. So we have a motion and a second to adopt today's consent agenda with 12 items. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, everyone. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to boards and commissions. Today, we have an opportunity to appoint Marcia Hilly and Kim Cooper, to reappoint Marcia Hilly and Kim Cooper to the Behavioral Health Council, and to appoint Jenny Carey, Evan McCracken, Olivia Waller, Setnicker, Fletcher Nash, and Christina Metsusek and Megan Hill as members of the Behavioral Health Council with terms ending on March 31, 2029. What are the wishes of the commission?
I move to make the appointments as presented.
Second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, colleagues. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And I want to personally thank all of them for applying and joining that council because like all of our boards and commissions, you volunteer your time and expertise. Next, we'll move on to proclamations, and I see Our staff is ready to go over a proposed proclamation to recognize May 2026 as Older Americans Month in Washington County.
Thank you. Yes, good morning, Chair Harrington, Board of County Commissioners. My name is Mira Samantel. I am the Director of Health and Human Services, and I am so pleased to be here today with our staff from Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services to present May as Older Americans Month. With me is Rebecca Miller. She's the Division Manager for Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services, otherwise known as DAVES, and then also Stacy Zerker, who is a Senior Program Coordinator with DAVES. So I will turn it over to Rebecca.
Thank you. Good morning. As Mayor said, it's my pleasure to request that this board designate May as Older Americans Month in Washington County. This annual observance celebrates the older adults in our community and promotes the theme for this year, Champion Your Health. And I pushed something somewhere.
Yeah, it should just.
There we go. Thank you. So my name is Rebecca Miller, Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services Manager, and I have the privilege also of serving as Washington County's Area Agency on Aging Director. As mentioned, Stacy Zerker is joining me. She's the Senior Program Coordinator overseeing our Older Americans Act services, and she'll read the proclamation as well. So as the county's designated area agency on aging, Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services provides essential services that support, educate, and empower older adults to manage their well-being and advocate for their health. Oops, wrong way. What's happening? One more. Thank you. You've got the magic touch.
I think they're helping.
Oh, thank you. Our programs focus on helping older adults age well at home and in the community. Through both direct service and contracted partners, we offer health promotion and falls prevention, which you'll hear a little bit more about in a moment, nutrition services, including congregate and home-delivered meals, durable medical equipment and supplies, such as walkers and nutritional supplements, care coordination, often known as case management, in-home services, outreach, education and advocacy, and more. Because this year's theme emphasizes taking charge of one's health, I want to highlight a new home-based falls prevention program that gives older adults the tools needed to reduce their falls risk. So during our 2024 needs assessment, we identified a concerning rate of falls among the individuals we serve. As a result, reducing preventable falls became a priority in our 2025-2029 area plan that you all approved. With one-time grant funding, we trained Pacific University occupational therapy doctoral and graduate students, and now Pacific University is contracted with us to deliver the evidence-based Otago Falls Prevention Program. Otago, developed in Otago, New Zealand, has been shown to reduce falls by up to 66% and reduce fall-related injuries by 28% in just a year for that client. It provides 17 at-home strength and balance exercises through 8 weeks of supervised instruction, followed by 4 to 10 months of guided self-management, depending on the client. It has several other components, but these are the highlights that I wanted to share with you today. I want to extend my sincere appreciation to Stacy for her leadership in establishing this program. She worked closely with Pacific University and our internal teams to overcome barriers, launch the service, and ensure that our first referrals were smoothly accepted. Her work is helping Washington County residents champion their own health, reduce falls, and lessen the isolation and loss of independence that often accompany a fall, or even just the fear of a fall. And next slide. We're happy to answer any questions, and when you're ready, I'm pleased to ask Stacy to please read the proclamation at your wish.
First, Commissioners, do you have any questions? No, but this is an exciting program. Thank you for implementing it.
Just one question. Is this, if I would Google this online, that would give me the program? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. And if you have any trouble, we're happy to send you the link as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
One more comment. I guess I just want to make the connection for the public that just how important decreasing falls in the elderly is, and primarily because it's a predictor of death within a year or two. 1 year mortality is pretty high in the population that has a fall, and so that's why, at least to me, this work is meaningful.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. With that, whereas each May, the nation honors older Americans and celebrates their ongoing contributions to our communities and our country. Oh, my goodness. Well, that got awkward really fast, didn't it? I'm so sorry. Yes, please, just a minute.
Yep.
I am doing I really want to be heard. My apologies. Whereas for 2026, the Administration for Community Living, part of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has selected the theme Champion Your Health, encouraging older adults to remain active partners in their own well-being. And whereas, in keeping with this theme, Disability, Aging, and Veteran Services of Washington County's federally designated Area Agency on Aging provides individuals and group programs and services that support the health, independence, and well-being of our older adults, promoting informed decision-making and access to preventative, cost-effective care. And whereas, together with the extensive network of collaborative community partners, Dave's delivers essential services including care coordination, system navigation, evidence-based health promotion, and community education. And whereas Washington County is stronger when older adults have the information and support they need to actively manage and advocate for their own health. Now, therefore, be it resolved on this 19th day of May 2026, the Washington County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 2026 as Older Americans Month in Washington County and encourages all community members to honor older adults, recognize their contributions, and support efforts that promote their health, independence, and quality of life.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, what are your wishes with regard to today's proclamation?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. And if staff would like to join us, let's memorialize this opportunity in a photograph opportunity.
Great, thank you.
I assume when everybody was quiet. No,
Right here.
Oh, yeah, you watch the wires. I watch the wires. I watch the wires. No. Let's see, can I? Yeah, that'll work.
That's a yes. I'll allow that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, everybody scooch into the middle. Yep, scooch in, scooch in. You're late. Come on now. Everybody waiting on Commissioner Willie. All right. Oh, it helps to not have your hand in front of the camera, doesn't it? All right, Commissioner Willie, if you could look at the camera. Thank you. All right. Good job, everybody.
All right.
Thank you. I like this.
Walk, keep it moving, right? Yes, thank you. Thanks, Mayor, sorry.
Falls are not fun at any age, but the older you get, the more damage they do. So please take care of yourselves. Next, we're going to move on to presentations. And I'd like to ask our housing experts to please come up to the table for a presentation on the Affordable Housing Bond and Supportive Housing Services Joint Quarterly Update. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Molly Rogers, and I serve as the Director of Housing Services for Washington County. Assistant Directors Jill Chen and Jess Larson, they're going to be doing the heavy lifting today, presenting and sharing with you all our Q3 updates for two very important voter-approved measures, the Metro Affordable Housing Bond and the Supportive Housing Services measure, respectively. And we are thrilled to introduce our guest presenter, Kemp Shuey, Executive Director for Community Action Organization of Washington County. Community action organizations play a very special role in the state of Oregon in that they are a core part of our social safety net and emergency response to those most in need. Thank you, Kemp, for joining us today. Next slide, please. In prior presentations for this board, we were asked to better inventory the variety of different capital projects that we have underway in the Department of Housing Services. As you can see, we are involved in 13 active capital projects, which is a lot. And we play a variety of roles for the community. Sometimes we play the role of owner, sometimes those of a funder, sometimes those as a partner. These projects encompass every type of shelter, housing, or front door access center to add to our shelter and housing continuum. Each of these projects represent a commitment to our mission, creating pathways out of homelessness, promoting housing stability, and investing in affordable communities for our residents. And our website has more information on each of these projects. You just need to click on that RQ code right there for detailed information for these 13 projects. Next slide, please. A key and longtime partner of the county, Community Action has served Washington County for over 60 years to empower people to achieve economic stability while fostering a more connected and resilient community. It also has a very special place in my heart, as it is where I was placed 26 years ago when I was a selected fellow for the National Congress for Community and Economic Development. So I can personally attest how they are fostering and empowering the future leaders of today and tomorrow at Community Action. We've historically had representation from this board on the board of directors of Community Action. I believe you all have taken your turn on this board, and right now it is Commissioner Fye serving in that position, and I believe Commissioner Willie is on the Finance Committee. So we are all part of this story. So thank you, Kemp, for your partnership and service to Washington County.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Molly. I should have you join all my board meetings that way. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Kemp Shuey, Executive Director for Community Action here in Washington County. And I am here today to talk to you about our eviction prevention program, really important work that the county has been very involved in supporting over the last few years. This is a program that served 13,000 households since 2020. It's become a critical service to the community and one that it has come to rely upon. It's also a complicated one. So my goal today in visiting all of you is to help deepen your understanding of the program, what it is, how it's designed, and why it's successful. So I think it's important to start off a little bit with some common terms and a definition. So when we talk about eviction prevention, what does that mean? We're talking about strategies and programs designed to keep individuals and households in their homes, helping them avoid the risk of homelessness. So Community Action, we're an organization that's focused on addressing issues of poverty in our community. This is why this is a really important cause for us and why we are involved in this work. Evictions cause poverty. We know the impacts of eviction are broad and far-reaching when they impact a household. They hit on a financial lens. Families that are evicted lose property, they lose their possessions, they amass fees from landlords, courts, storage facilities, and it puts people at a higher loss or higher risk of job loss, impacting their ability to afford housing. At a personal level, it impacts their autonomy. Legal evictions come with a court record, making it more difficult to find housing in safe, affordable neighborhoods. And there's a social impact. This is a traumatic event. Studies show we have increased rates of depression amongst folks who are evicted, as well as children are experiencing significant disruptions in their schooling, in their medical care, and in some cases are having temporary separations from their parents and families. So I brought just a couple of slides today to talk a little bit about this program. And I think first, it's important to note that eviction prevention has always been a tool we've desired to have when it comes to addressing homelessness in our respective communities. It's proactive, it's cost-effective, it's an upstream, proven strategy that works. It's also something that we've never really had dedicated resources to do for many, many, many years. COVID changed that. Before COVID hit, our eviction prevention work was quite small. At most, we might serve 30 households in a month just through our organization, and the rent assistance that we provided was about $750 per household for a month. So it was a partial payment, very short amount of time. A household was dependent on bringing other resources to prevent that eviction. Since then, since the pandemic hit, we have a couple, this chart here shows total expenditures through our organization over that time. And I want to call out a couple of key points here in terms of key funding moments in the history of this program. The first is when you look at the 2020 to 2021 period, that's the impact of the CARES Act. So that's the first federal stimulus bill that came through. 21 to 22, you're seeing the impact of additional stimulus bills at the federal level. So for our work, this was known as the Emergency Rent Assistance Program, so ERA-1 and ERA-2, the second of which came through the American Rescue Plan. Both of those, by the way, ERA-1, ERA-2, and CARES, there were allocations that came through Washington County and through the state of Oregon to community action. In 2023 is when we saw those federal funds end and local efforts step up at both the state and county level. So in 2023, we see the creation of Oregon's Eviction Diversion and Prevention Program, also known as ORADAP. That's being run at the state level through community action agencies. Also at that time, this body chose to invest SHS resources into eviction prevention work as well. And I think most notably, it's that investment that was able to sustain our work in a meaningful way over the last few years. We are at that point now. I just include that little bit there at the end where we are in 25-26. We have seen reductions from SHS funds for this work and from the state for this work for different reasons. But it is, I want to make sure we indicate that is where we are at now. So more than we had before COVID began, but there's been a significant drop. So I get a lot of questions about what's the need in our community, who's benefiting from this resource. So I hope this slide helps illustrate that a little bit for you. I should note the data I'm pulling for these slides not only is it our own service data, also pulling information from Portland State University's Evicted in Oregon website, evictedinoregon.com, as well as Princeton University's Eviction Lab. So we are seeing in the orange bars the need continue to climb. This is total eviction filings in Washington County year over year. And you'll see households served in the blue as that goes down. So not surprisingly, as resources dwindle, we're seeing our service numbers also decline proportionally. A couple of key things to note, though, about this slide are the policy interventions that were taking place at various points. It makes it kind of hard to compare year over year when you talk about average rents and households served and those sort of metrics. In 2020, you hopefully will recall there was an eviction moratorium in place. We had a high level of resources available, so high service numbers, very low rates of eviction filings. That expired in June 21. The state had passed a safe harbor period for an additional 3 months. That was good through September of 21. The intent was to allow organizations to keep addressing eviction cases with prevention services and hopefully diminishing a severe spike in eviction filings. So those are a couple of the key points to note there on the chart. Who are we helping with this work? Families with children represent 57% of households that we're serving, and of those, 31% of those recipients are single moms. 57% of all households served, and 31% of all households served are single moms. These are also people who are working. 38% were at the time either working full or part-time. 28% of those folks were short-term unemployed, so less than 6 months. I think it's worth noting, typically, there are other folks who are longer-term unemployed or usually are unable to work, medically unable to work or retired. I wouldn't expect them to be working. Most importantly, this is a program that does not see a lot of repeat customers. When we did an analysis of our data at this point last year, a little over 90% of our folks that we had served, this was a one-time intervention for them. So they were not coming back. That's a really positive sign in our view. Lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about the program design. This is a high-profile program. It's had a number of sources of funding over the years, a lot of moving targets, different rules and requirements from different funders. But at its core, one of the elements we really chose to focus on was ensuring as wide of access as possible for this program. It's why we chose at the beginning to partner with culturally specific organizations to help expand the reach. We knew a lot of communities would have trouble accessing this program, particularly immigrant communities, linguistically isolated communities. They've helped expand the front door to this program for us. Currently, we're working with Adelante Mujeres, Bienestar, Centro Cultural, IRCO, and the Muslim Educational Trust in this work. We are also working or hopeful to be back our central phone line to take some of these cases. With the significant drop in funding we saw, we had to kind of bring that service, part of our program, to a close. We're looking to bring that back up and running for the year ahead, and we're excited about that. We currently have about 12 staff members who are working on this. At its peak, we had about 35, but it's labor-intensive work. Requires managing relationships and conversations with the tenants, with landlords, and sometimes with legal counsel as well. But the outcomes show this program is working. We're seeing that communities with the highest rates of poverty are accessing this program in rates comparable to their population in the community. Families with children are getting access to this program. There are 12,000 children under the age of 17 who live in poverty in Washington County, so we are definitely targeting that community. Quite importantly for us, community action is also meeting our target and expenditure targets, our service targets, with every one of these funding sources, and that's something we're very proud of. So finally, I think if there's a takeaway point, remembering this is an effective program. It's an effective use of dollars. I know as leaders here, you have a lot of choices to make when you're making budgetary decisions. So I'm not here today to convince you one way or the other, but hopefully to leave you a little bit more informed about the positive impact this program is having and aid in your decision making in that process. Hopefully you can share that information as well with your elected peers here in Washington County and around the state. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Willie has asked if he can ask you a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, could you go back to that pie chart? You commented on this, Kemp, that the percentages here are generally in relationship to the population numbers, and this is all Washington County, right? Okay.
Correct.
What I guess the Hispanic one looks pretty consistent. What doesn't look consistent to me is our black community, because I don't believe we have 11.6% of our community is black, and it's like 1 or 2%, isn't it? So I mean, is there? I guess I don't know what my point is, except that it's interesting.
Yeah.
The demographics on this.
Well, I think an important thing to keep in mind when we're looking at how effectively we're serving communities. From our lens, we're looking at the poverty population, which is different than the overall population as a whole. So in that regard, we know here in Washington County, Black community members are experiencing poverty at a rate that is in the upper teens. As a proportion of the overall poverty population, there's a little over 50,000 people in Washington County who are officially at that federal poverty level. So when we're looking at our program metrics and trying to see how effectively we're serving, we're also looking at those, kind of looking at it through that lens to get a sense of how well are we serving communities most impacted by poverty, and comparing those numbers of what we're serving with what that community looks like from that lens. It's not a science by any stretch.
No, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
If we could move on, please.
Thank you so much, Kemp, and sort of hard to follow up on that one, and great work. For the record, I'm Jill Chen, Assistant Director of the Department of Housing Services, and I will do a quick overview of our regional Metro Affordable Housing Bond. We have the luxury and the privilege of having over $140 million from the Metro Affordable Housing Bonds. This is from the initial allocation as well as from the allocation of interest earnings. In total, there are 13 projects targeted for use of these funds. 10 are already completed with over 800 units in operations. Underway, out of that 10, is one of our the Heartwood project, which is a phase 2 sort of increase in livability and structural upgrades. Other 3, one is in construction, as you can see in the picture, and 2 are in pre-development. Overall, we will have over 1,000 units open or underway. Couple of things to note on this slide, you have seen this before multiple times, is that the spread of our affordable housing assets are throughout the county. And that makes it more appealing, I think, for our community. A couple of other items of note is the items that are in pre-development. Wanted to make sure that we point out the risks to our board about these 2 projects. First is a timing. A lot of that is dependent on the state for gap funding. This is funding from Oregon Housing and Community Services. So those dates that we have right now may slide depending on availability of funding and the prior allocation from the state. The second item of note is that our Forest Grove Permanent Supportive Housing, we have dropped that number from 60 units to 45 units. And that is predicated on the fact that our application to the state has dropped based on the state's maximum amounts that's available to this kind of a project. We're still, however, on track to create over 1,000 units of housing. Despite the impact on the drop in the number, we are still on track to exceed every metric in our Metro Affordable Housing Bonds. In particular, for the permanent supportive housing, we will exceed that by 72%. And on the deeply affordable housing projects, we will exceed by 19%. Deeply affordable in our community is for a family of 4 that earns less than $38,500, which is similar to some of the people that Kemp was talking about. These are mostly folks who work on minimum wage jobs or part-time. Overall, we are still expected to exceed our total production by 23%. And on that note, I will pass it to my colleague.
Thank you, Jill. Good morning, Board. For the record, Jess Larson, Assistant Director, and here to provide our Supportive Housing Services quarterly update for you all. First, the good and exciting news. We crossed a brilliant milestone this quarter. tallying a total of 3,000 formerly homeless households who've now been placed into supported and stable housing through the Supportive Housing Services measure. So it's really tremendous to track that impact over the time of this measure. That includes both households placed into permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing programs. But all of these households were previously homeless and received case management services and rent assistance to get back on track into stable housing. So we continue to do this good work and will continue to increase the number of households impacted through this program. Next, moving along swiftly here, just some additional highlights from the previous quarter. We launched in January a new program called the Housing Resolution Fund, and I really want to call your attention to this because this is a new kind of housing program. In addition to rapid rehousing and PSH, now we have a Housing Resolution Fund broadly available for our community for households who have the means to pay their rent and sustain housing independently, if but for move-in assistance, financial assistance to secure that housing. There is no wait for this financial assistance, which is really important because there are now going to be long waits to get into rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing programs. They're full of people being served, and we will only serve more people as those people move on and move out. But the Housing Resolution Fund is a resource-based fund that is broadly available for anyone who can end their homelessness but for some financial assistance and a little bit of coaching support from a housing liaison. So that is a new tool in our toolbox for this homeless response system, and we're thrilled to see it getting broad utilization already in its first quarter. We also executed a data sharing agreement with our partners at HealthShare, which is going to help us learn more about the community members we're serving, where their members, their health plan members, are showing up in our shelters or permanent supportive housing programs, what kinds of health needs they have, and how we can coordinate our resources to better meet their needs, create housing, and health stability in the long term. We were also selected as the regional shelter coordinator by Oregon State Housing and Community Services. So we are thrilled to be taking on that role more officially now in partnership with the state to continue the operation of our shelter system here in Washington County. And last, speaking of our funder partners, as you know, we submit an annual work plan to Metro. We completed that draft in this quarter. We will finalize that draft with the start of the new fiscal year, reflective of the approved budget. So lots of big progress in Q3. We also want to make a note on some important progress happening in our shelter systems. You are well aware of this, but just underscoring that we are having continued conversations with the neighbors of two new shelters that will be opening this in the next 6 months, roughly. So the Central County Safe Rest Village, the meeting with our neighbors there will be tomorrow evening to discuss the draft Good Neighbor Agreement and turn their feedback into a final document in advance of operations. That program is on track to open in July or August this year. We're having some delay in construction, but nothing unanticipated. Next, we are also continuing the work of conversations with our neighbors at the new Cornell Road Recovery Transitional Housing Program. That meeting is scheduled in June, and we are on track to open that program later this fall. And also a note for your board, we are scheduled to come to you as a work session on June 9th to have discussion about policies under consideration for shelter enrollment decisions. So more on that related to the feedback we've been receiving from these neighbors. We also like to highlight this quarter our city liaison program. We are so grateful for our partners at the city of Beaverton, the city of Hillsboro, and the cities of Tigard, Tualatin, and Sherwood, who partner here with Megan, featured on the left, as their city liaison. They partner with our staff to day by day, week by week, coordinating what's happening on the ground in their community with their law enforcement, with their library services, with their outreach outreach teams so that we can provide more targeted and thoughtful local response in our homeless system, and yet still countywide coordination. So we're super grateful for these partners. We initiated intergovernmental agreements that need to be updated, and will be coming forward to your board for as a consent agenda item later this month, so that we can continue to do this important coordination work with our local city partners. Next, here's another slide to highlight. We've nearly surpassed all of the goals we set for this quarter, or this program year, year 5, just in Q3. So that's tremendous. And in fact, we're not really lagging in homeless prevention at all, because as you will recall, we were at 0 when we ended quarter 2, because the homeless prevention funds had not yet been executed with community action. So with 75% of the goal met already in Q3, we will certainly surpass this goal by the end of Q4. So even as we complete even as our system moves into attrition and more modest goal setting, because now our resources are fully deployed, we're still seeing our system work and people move through it and be supported, and being able to see new housing placements out of those programs. Last, a note on our financial tracking. We are at 57% of total spend at the end of Q3, which is pretty much right on track where we would expect to be. As you all know, Q4 is when we have the vast majority of invoices come through, and we did receive some additional one-time funds this year, so this is all as on track and as expected at this time. And then I think our last slide is just to give you some highlights of what's coming up in homeless services this summer. Our partners in Project Homeless Connect and Open Door will be breaking ground on their new access centers. Those projects are moving forward, and we cannot wait for the opportunity of these new community investments to be open, especially during inclement weather seasons in the future. There will be a tremendous asset to our system. We are also moving forward on increasing eviction prevention resources with our partners at Community Action and their subrecipient partners, which are culturally specific organizations. Because of board action, you've directed to increase those resources. So we wanted to especially underscore that after the presentation you heard from our partner, that we are moving forward with the action you have given to increase those resources because of the increased need in our community. Our staff are working on updating our local implementation plan. As you know, a draft will be being brought together over the summer months, and we look forward to bringing that to you this fall as a polished, near final product for your further review. We want to thank Commissioner Siders and Willie for their work in representing Washington County on the new Regional Policy Oversight Committee, which has launched in this last quarter. We've now attended 2 meetings. The meeting in June will focus on KPIs and KPIs, let me say that more specifically, key performance indicators and key environmental indicators for the region, and also regional strategies and the utilization of the Regional Investment Fund. So big, important regional conversations coming up in June, and much gratitude to your leadership for helping us show up as Washington County and continue this important regional work. And last, just a note, the team is very busy. We have 3 procurements happening over the next few months. Actually, we've just concluded, and your board will be considering an item on approving the new qualified providers. This is how we pre-authorize contracting with Washington County Homeless Services. So the RFPQ review process has completed, and your board will be taking action on that in the next couple of meetings. We also will be releasing a notice of funding opportunity to create the future Beaverton Area Access Center. And last, I believe we are mid-process with a procurement to select a service provider to be the partner of the future PSH project that Jill was describing in Forest Grove. So busy work over the summer, but all in good forward motion as directed by your board. And with that, I think we have time for your questions.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Snyder.
Thank you, Chair. Slide 4, and I know this is sort of obvious, but I need to point it out. The dramatic decrease in funding that for eviction prevention. It is rare that we see a 20x decrease or change in funding in a particular program. I remain really concerned about this, and I'm sure others are too. I just don't want to lose sight of this. It is much cheaper to prevent an eviction than to try to get someone rehoused later. So that's one just observation, comment I want to make. I don't know how to fix it, but.
Thank you, Commissioner, and noted. I do want to just make note that this is data about expenditures, and that does not totally relate to revenue investment. So what you're seeing here is a delay in the execution of some of the contracts your board has directed, and those being turned into expenditures.
So you'll see those, or we'll see those numbers increase?
Indeed.
Okay, that's comforting, because otherwise this slide's very sad to me. Slide 17, and I don't need this answer necessarily now, but I think it'd be good for us to have it, or me to have it at some point. On this slide, under the county administrative costs, I would like to just know how much, if any, of that is the cost allocation plan from the county. Again, don't need an answer now.
Thank you, Commissioner. We can get that data
to
you.
I would like to know.
Other commissioners, questions or comments? Commissioner Willie?
Yeah, staying with this slide, I noted that, I was just looking at percentages of what we have spent thus far, and your response to the fourth quarter. Homeless prevention, we've only spent 10%. So what exactly is entailed in that category?
So this is reflective of the slide we just previously looked at. You can see what we've budgeted versus what has been actually expended, and that is because contracts did not were not executed until the first part of this year, even though there were budgeted resources. Also, some of what is in year 5 budget is revenue received from Metro for the $4 million to increase eviction prevention resources over the next 2 fiscal years. So we aren't going to reach 100%. We know we are going to carry some of that eviction prevention resource over to the next fiscal year, because we know that the state's reduction in eviction prevention resources, which is what predicated this request to Metro, was a 2-year biennium budget that they approved. So we wanted to make sure that we had resources that spanned both years. So those funds were deposited from Metro into this line item for our budget. We are increasing the rate of use of those funds now through our contract with Community Action, and at least 50% of those funds will be forwarded on to next fiscal year.
So of the 6.6, that's year 5 budget, 4 million is that Metro? 4 million, is that where that is housed?
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. I want to be careful. There are some details here for us to parse out. Homeless prevention as a category in our reporting to Metro includes both the eviction prevention program that we contract with Community Action to implement, and some funds that go into the new homeless resolution fund that I was speaking. So it is not just one contract on that line. And I would be happy to bring the board back more detail about what it is conclusive of the budgeted items in this category and where we have expended those resources so far.
Yeah, I need to have a better picture, like Commissioner Snyder pointed out. I'm a huge advocate of rent assistance, because to me that staves off the next wave of houseless folks that we have. And so when the other graph that showed that it had gone down to 1.6 million, I think was the number, and the number of applications, that was 5,000. There's a real disconnect in there, and I'd like to see us kind of true that up a little bit better, so that we're dealing with both sides of this issue, not just one. And it feels like we're only dealing with one, and that's the folks that are already homeless.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I want to thank all the commissioners because this was actually the conversation we were hoping to have with you. As you know, the SHS measure has an A-B split of priorities, and eviction prevention, because of the way those resources, because of those priorities in the regional program, is an investment that has to fit within our 25% when using SHS dollars. And this has been a challenge. We were able to mitigate that challenge because we had one-time resources that we invested. We are running out of those one-time resources. And we need to think about what's the system we sustain long-term and how we do that in relationship with the requirements of the supportive housing measure. So we are grateful to you for engaging in this challenge with us. We agree that eviction prevention needs to be a part of our homeless services response system.
Okay. And just one more question, then I'll quit. Where does Pop A and Pop B, the A-B, where does that fit in the eviction prevention allocation? Do we have to consider that in both of those as well?
Yes, thank you for the question. Population A is defined as households who have experienced chronic homelessness. So they are disabled and they've been homeless for a year or longer or 4 repeated episodes of homelessness. There's a nuance to the definition, but that's the essential purpose of Population A, chronic homelessness. Population B includes others who are homeless, not disabled, so homeless for economic reasons only, homeless for less than a year, or at risk of homelessness. And eviction prevention resources only serve households at risk of homelessness. So 25% of our resources are limited to all of those community needs, a portion of which is what eviction prevention addresses.
Great. That was very good. Thank you very much. I needed that refresh.
Other commissioner questions or comments? Seeing none, I have a few comments on the affordable housing bond. Jill and team, I want to thank you very much for all of your due diligence in getting projects completed, getting them designed, solving the funding puzzle. That's always a challenge. And we look forward to the projects underway this year, but also for the next Board of Commissioners next year being able to celebrate and into subsequent years the grand opening of those 2 projects. But also on this slide, if you could correct the label and repost the presentation. Number 7 is in Cedar Mill as opposed to Bethany. There's a nuance there up in that community. So it would be very helpful if we're consistent in that regard. So
It says Cedar.
over here it says Cedar Mill. The label,
Okay.
as I said, the label says Bethany.
Yes, it is.
And I really want to express my sincere appreciation for Commissioners Willie and Snyder for taking on the regional policy oversight or program oversight committee for SHS for Washington County. It would be helpful we usually get this with Q4, but I think it would be helpful with each of the quarterly reports if, as part of the, and maybe you already achieve it, what I was going to get to is when we're looking at the financials on slide 17 that Commissioner Willie mentioned, the prior slide does talk about the program year goals for this program year. And it's what we don't see, for example, is that reminder for us of the carry forward that has already been programmed. You have in past presentations had the listing of what funds have been obligated. I can't remember the terms now, but that slide has always helped me. And I think as we navigate both slide 16 and 17, those helpful reminders just do wonders for me, at least, and perhaps for others. So I know your team is compassionate, but they're also experts in this. We wouldn't have these Washington County results for these two programs but for the expert people on staff and the level of collaboration both with the providers as well as with the other jurisdictions and Metro. So thank you very much for coming to us each and every quarter so that we can see how we're on the journey, how we're able to help those in our community, and the impact of voter-provided resources. Thank you very much. Keep up the great work. All right, we still have quite a few items on our agenda today. Reminder, we have 3 public hearings, and then we will be coming back to consent agenda item D6. So we're up for our first public hearing. I want to make sure, yes, I have the right item. This is a public hearing to transfer jurisdiction of a portion of Southwest Baylor Way to the city of Sherwood as County Road 3350. Oh, there's Stacy Shetler. Thank you. Welcome. Please take it away.
Good morning, Chair Harrington, members of the board. As introduced, I'm Stacy Shetler, your county engineer from Land Use and Transportation. And we are here to talk about and request a jurisdiction transfer of Baylor Way in the city of Sherwood. The city has requested this transfer of jurisdiction through a city council action. The map isn't showing up great from my perspective, but the red dashed line is the segment to be transferred. It's just north of Tualatin Sherwood Road. This, as I said, the city has initiated the transfer. The portion of Baylor Way is within the city limits of Sherwood. It's not identified to be long-term owned and managed by Washington County, and the interests of the public are maintained. The notifications were provided per the statute. There's no known opposition, and during the public hearing today, you may receive additional input. So with that, I ask that your board conduct the public hearing and then approve the resolution in order. Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions before we proceed? Seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in advance of the meeting. Is there any member of the public that we should provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard the staff report, just raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment for up to 2 minutes on this hearing? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you. And with that, I'll close today's public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution in order to transfer the jurisdiction of this portion of Southwest Baylor Way to the city of Sherwood.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. And next, we'll move on to something similar but different, and that is to rename a portion of Northwest Thompson Road as Northwest Old Thompson Road, and now Northwest Kenny Terrace as Northwest Thompson Road. Take it away, Mr. Shetler.
And thank you, Chair Harrington and members of the board. For the record, I'm Stacy Shetler, your county engineer in Land Use and Transportation. And before you today is the renaming of 2 roads. The map in front of you kind of lays out what's happening here. The segment in red is currently named Kenny Terrace. It's proposed to be renamed Thompson Road to be consistent with the realignment of the capital project that went through there and realigned the road. The second portion of this action is to rename what was the previous alignment of Thompson Road to Old Thompson Road. So they're using Old Thompson Road is consistent with past practice. You're probably familiar with other roads that have old in front of them. Old Pass Road, Old Cornelius Pass Road, Old 99, etc. There were no residents affected by the addressing change or name change on Kenny Terrace. There were no houses addressed to that. There are 4 properties addressed on the portion of Thompson Road that's proposed to be renamed to Old Thompson Road. 3 of the 4 property owners signed the petition requesting that change. 1 constituent was unable to be reached for that. And that's why we're here today with the public hearing, because there was not 100% concurrence on that name change. The interests of the public are maintained by the name changes and consistent with what people are seeing out there currently. So we've had some input on this proposed action. We did provide the notification per statute. At the development forum last month, I was approached by a community member who suggested that that instead of Old Thompson Road, that Findlay School Road would be considered as an alternative. We, as a courtesy, looked at that. We talked to the Washington County Consolidated Communications Agency, the 911 folks, who do a cursory review of our street naming in the county. They would not approve that the name Findlay School Road, because there's already a road named Findlay Street, and there would be some duplicative addressing with the name of Findlay School Road, which could cause some concerns for emergency response. We haven't had any people from the community call about this proposed action, but I think there's somebody signed up to talk today during the public hearing. So we ask that your board conduct the public hearing and then approve the resolution and order to rename both Kenny Terrace to Thompson Road and to rename a portion of Thompson Road to Old Thompson Road. Thank you.
And with that, I would like to open a public hearing on this matter. Clerk Moss.
We have Mary Manso. Mary?
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Mary Manso. The proposed name change of Kenny Terrace to Thompson Road is not an issue for our community. It's the apparent automatic assumption that the historic alignment of Thompson Road will be named Old Thompson Road. Kudos to staff for being aware of the change.org petition and the public interest in naming the portion of Thompson Road that now dead ends at the Findlay School parking lot as Findlay School Road. I'm confused about the purpose of a public hearing when the decision seems to have already been made before the roads were open to the public months ago without the benefit of this public hearing. Street signs have already been changed. Google Maps have been updated with street names. Having assumed that the decision was final, at least one of the 2 property owners, the really only 2 property owners, has already made changes to their address. There are 4 properties, but 2 of those properties have a pending, actually an approved land use application, 29 new homes, none of which will have the Thompson Road address. Staff points to the naming convention of historic alignments listing Old Corn Pass Road, Old Shoals Ferry Road, and Old Highway 47, but does not include instances where this convention was not followed. The historic alignment of Shoals Ferry is now Barrows Road. The historic alignment of Thompson Road became Whistler Lane when the intersection of Thompson, West Union, 143rd, and Kaiser was reconfigured. Although road names have been changed on Google Maps, Apple Maps have not been updated with the new road name or with the new road alignment. Neither service is able to map the school's larger parking lot located south of the school because this lot does not have a unique address. Let's be clear, the historic alignment of Thompson Road dead ends at Findlay School. Emergency providers are professionals and should be able to deal with the change. I don't see how Findlay Street versus Findlay School Road is any more confusing than Old Thompson Road and Thompson Road. The map before you describes the convoluted path that you need to take to get to the southern parking lot from the corner of Salzman and Thompson, where you can see the parking lot, but there's no direct route. You can't use mapping because there is not a unique address for the lot. And it just seems like naming a road that dead ends at a school parking lot, naming it for that school makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone else who wishes to testify?
I did not see anyone else sign up in advance of the meeting. Is there anyone else in the auditorium that wishes to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard from staff, raise your hands, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online wish to provide public comment on this public hearing for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to close the public hearing, and I'd like to start staff discussion with the board with a question myself. Where is Finley Street?
Thank you, Commissioner. Finley Street is about 1,600 feet north of the school, and so it's a road that runs east-west just north of Finley School.
So it's in the same...
It's in the same grid. It's in the same localized area, correct?
Okay, thank you. Other commissioners with questions and comments?
I'll just, I guess, add to the confusion comment around that, having been both a reserve police officer and a paramedic in the day and age where GPS maps were not as prolific as they are now. I would strongly encourage us to not create confusion 1,600 feet away. That is a recipe for problems, especially when it involves a school. I have a couple questions, though. One is, why were I guess I should ask, were the sign changes or name changes already made, as the testimony indicated?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, the testimony is correct. The name signs have been changed out there. They were changed as part of the capital project construction. And so I think part of the confusion was with the capital project, after their public outreach, letting folks know that this was the course of action that was going to be proposed. After 4 project managers later, I think that was a piece or detail that slipped through the cracks. And so we're coming back to your board to officially get the records changed.
So this step should have happened a while ago?
This step should have happened before the placards were changed, correct?
Okay. I guess the other question I would ask is, given the comment about the potential confusion of Old Thompson Road and Thompson Road, were there considerations given to just using some other name for that road?
Thank you for that question. I'm not sure what other considerations for street naming. This was, again, what was communicated during the public outreach as far as part of the capital projects. The petition in front of you is to name the streets as proposed. And so I don't think there's been any other consideration other than the Finley School Road designation.
So, for example, our naming convention does not have a history of calling it Thompson Road Extension or something like that. Okay. Other commissioners? Commissioner Willie?
Yeah, just 2 quick questions. Commissioner Snyder, I Googled that, and yes, Google Maps already has renamed that street Northwest Thompson Road. So I thought that was interesting. I also, just the fact that Old Thompson Road now does dead into, it looks to me like Findlay Elementary, but the access to Findlay Elementary would actually be off of Northwest Salzman. So, yeah, I don't know what I think about all that, just looking at the map. And we kind of have the same similar thing with Cornelius Pass. We have Old Cornelius Pass that I don't know where it goes, that connects from one Cornelius Pass to Shoals Ferry. Yeah, it's or not Shoals Ferry, but to West Union. Anyway, yeah, so we certainly have a history of renaming these things old and
we have
current.
Old Germantown Road.
Yep. So that's all. I just wanted to point out the fact that Google Maps have already made that change, and I doubt that there'd be confusion for our emergency vehicles right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Commissioner Treese?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Shedler, you mentioned that there's 4 addresses on the road that's being renamed. 3 of the people responded to the question about whether or not the question of the naming of the road. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and the 4th did not respond.
The 4th was unresponsive after multiple attempts of trying to reach them. And the person that testified during the public hearing is correct. There's 2 properties that are under redevelopment.
Okay, which would lead to more houses on Old Thompson, what's currently called Old Thompson Road.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, so it seems to me that the issue here really is the communication with the public and the fact that it appears that there has been that this decision was made without public input, and the signs were changed, which led to the impression in the public that this decision was made without public input. And I just want to call that out because I think that that's the place where we could have done better. So but I concur with Commissioner Snyder on the confusion aspect, and I understand what the historical, the convention of naming roads has been. I just want to call out the fact that that's where we dropped the ball. So thank you.
Commissioner Treese, on the point about using or having confusion with the word old, as I thought about that a little bit more, I think that's a very elegant way to make everybody know, hey, you better make sure you know, are you looking at the regular road or the old road? And I do think that that's sort of a generally known convention, as you were kind of indicating. So I don't have a lot of heartache over the mix-up possibilities there, but I do think that's worth pointing out.
Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
I just want to respond that I understand that. I'm just talking about what our information to the public has been. Thank you.
Are there any other commissioner comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Fye.
Thank you, Chair. Stacy, thank you for your presentation. And Mary, thank you for joining us this morning. I don't know what you're planning to communicate to the residents. I think a mistake has happened, and something fell through the cracks, which is unfortunate, and big projects like this tends to happen, something I imagine. But I do think that we should, not in these exact sentence, but apologize to the residents that we got in front of, we put the cart before the horse kind of a thing, to let them know that it was not intentional. I don't think you had a malice intent to do this, but miscommunication happened, and I think it's but I sit here reflecting back on, would this, mistake change the direction of my vote? And the answer is no, because I think there is a past practice, and I think that the old road communicates better than the new road kind of. So as somebody who English isn't their first language, I really do think that it sends a clear message of the directionality of navigating the county. So I do support, and I intend to vote yes on this. But I do think that share the lesson learned, and that we'll try to keep an eye on in the future that big projects that we won't get ahead of the community or we won't get ahead of the board. That isn't the intent here. And we will always come back to the board and have this conversation if mistakes. And ultimately, it's the board's decision to decide which way to go. And in this case, for me, the facts of the project is still the same, and I will vote yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shetler. So I would like to ask for a motion to rename a portion of Northwest Thompson Road as Northwest Old Thompson Road and Northwest Kenny Terrace as Northwest Thompson Road. Do we have such a motion?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hands or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to our third public hearing for today, and this is to transfer the jurisdiction of a portion of Southwest Haide Road to the City of Sherwood as County Road 3367. Back to you, Mr. Shetler. Oh, and I forgot to mention on that previous item, thank you for following up, owning the mistake and following up and getting it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, members of the board. Again, I'm Stacy Shetler, County Engineer, Land Use and Transportation, and this third item before you is a transfer of jurisdiction of Haide Road in the City of Sherwood. The City of Sherwood, through their City Council, has requested this transfer of jurisdiction. Again, the slide map is not great from my perspective, but hopefully you can see that Haide Road runs east-west, and it's just north of the high school, Sherwood High School campus, and it connects to Elwert Road. As I said, the City of Sherwood has initiated this transfer. The portion of Haide Road is within the city limits, is eligible for transfer, and it is not on the county's long-term jurisdiction map, so not anticipated to be owned and operated by the county in the future. The interests of the public are maintained to this transfer. Notifications were provided per statute. There's no known opposition to the transfer. You may receive additional input at today's public hearing. With that, I ask that your board conduct the public hearing and approve the resolution in order. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to testify during this public hearing?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in advance of the meeting. Is there any member in the auditorium who wishes to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you've heard from staff, raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Is there any member online that wishes to provide public comment on this public hearing? As you heard from staff, give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you. And with that, I'll close today's public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution in order to transfer the jurisdiction of this portion of Southwest Haide Road to the City of Sherwood.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And next, we're going to come back to item number D6 that was on our consent agenda by board decision. We've moved that off of the consent agenda. And this is an item titled Approve Bid Award and Execute Contract for the Walker Road 185th Avenue to 173rd Avenue Project. Take it away, Mr. Roberts.
All right. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. First, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with you a little bit about some of the comments that you heard earlier today about this particular bid project. This has been a complicated one, and so we want to. It's actually good that we have the opportunity to just give you a little bit more information. And thanks for giving us some time to review the testimony that was provided too. That was very helpful. So I want to introduce, I have with me Stephen Cruz, who is a senior project manager in our capital projects division, as well as Courtney Duke-Dreesen, our deputy county counsel, who has been intimately involved with this process and really helped us work our way through it. So they're both here and available to answer any questions that you may have. But I wanted to just start off with a brief kind of high-level response to some of the commentary. So the folks that presented earlier represent Kerr Contractors of Oregon, and so they were the second bidder, as they alluded to in their testimony. And the bids were close in this case, only about $145,000 in a $14 million,
yes,
$14 or $15 million bid. So they were quite close. So, but when we received the protest from Kerr, we did do a pretty detailed analysis of not just the low bid, which was Tapani Inc., but also the Kerr bid and then several of the other bids, number 3 and 4 bids. And so I think just a general takeaway I would posit is that in any individual project bid, it's unlikely that you'll find items that may appear to be sort of low or high bid relative to other bids, within the group of bidders that submit. So that's fairly typical. And in this case, these are fairly large, complex projects. We actually have work here for both the county, for the city of Beaverton, and for Tualatin Valley Water District, all as a part of this contract. In these projects, we oftentimes bid the work in separate what are called schedules. So Schedule A was mostly the county work, but there are shared costs that are included in that schedule as well for things like traffic control and other shared costs. So those are split between the county and the other agencies. Schedule B and C in this case were for utility work for Tualatin Valley Water and for the city of Beaverton. And so on the whole, obviously the Tapani bid was the lowest. As a part of our detailed analysis, we didn't find that there was a material difference in unbalancing of individual line items between the low bid and the second bid and some of the other bids as well. So on the whole, we found that none of the bids appeared to meet the requirement, the legal obligation or standard of a materially unbalanced bid. And I would add that in some cases, because we do bid these currently under different bidding schedules, there can be instances where the work that primarily is for the county may come in a little bit higher than in different bids, but on the whole, again, we're looking at the larger project. And the folks that are paying for these projects ultimately are community members through either county taxes, rates that they pay to their utility provider, or their city taxes, various ways. So the community members are the ones that we're watching out for, and overall, this is the lowest project. And as I was mentioning, in different projects, the different schedules as their bid can result in higher or lower bids for a particular agency relative to other contractor bids, and so that's just part of the nature of this. But in the big scheme of things, it all sort of evens out over time as a general rule. So that's a lot from me, and I'm happy to field any questions, and then if either Courtney or Stephen have any relevant facts that they'd like to add, feel free to do that too.
I want to start off, if I could, colleagues, to just make sure I heard you correctly. You said that in reviewing each of these bids and in the protest, in my words, you found that there's a legal standard for what defines materially underbid, and what, by looking at the facts of the submitters, you didn't find that that information demonstrated that it met the legal standard. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yes, Chair, I'd say that's generally correct. It's as you heard in testimony from the representatives of Kerr Contractor, the county, a public agency may reject a materially unbalanced bid unless we find there's no risk to the county of still accepting the lowest apparent bid. So in addition to what Mr. Roberts talked about, we did a very thorough cost analysis. The engineers over on his team did math that I barely understood, but I did follow, looking at very detailed at the bids that were received. In addition to that, we also did confirm our quantities with our engineer of record to make sure that the bid solicitation that we went out was accurate, to address some of the assertions that there would be unreasonable cost overruns. So we did that check, say, are these quantities correct? We also looked at the overall impact to the public and the project of rejecting the lowest bid, not only on our jurisdictional partners, but also the entire project. As you know, this Walker Road is this phase 3. This is not an isolated project. We are deep into it. A lot of work has already been done to get permitting, acquire right-of-way, temporary construction easements. So we looked at all of that analysis and found that
First, the lowest apparent bid was not materially unbalanced, nor was there an unreasonable risk to the county to accept the lowest apparent bid, because we have tools as part of our contract administration to also control the work as it progresses over time.
I just want to check that the board is clear on that.
I have questions too.
Okay, so let's kick it off. Who would like to go first with questions? Well, it looks like everybody has questions, so why don't we go left to right? Commissioner
Okay.
Snyder.
So County Council, your description, the first question I have is around this sort of counting of quantities question. And your answer just made a lot of sense to me. But what I don't understand is if the testimony that we got from the folks representing Kerr is accurate about the quantities, that would mean their bid had more quantities in it? I mean, I don't get how that, like the quantity is the quantity, right? Unless someone's adjusting it because they think you're wrong or...
I think I'll let Mr. Cruz answer because he does more project management.
Sure.
And then if it doesn't answer, I'll chime in.
Sorry. Thank you. So everybody bids on the same quantities, but what contractors generally do is they will, we provide the engineering files, the CAD files for contractors to better bid projects. And so there are some times where a contractor may identify the potential for a bid quantity to be inaccurate in the bid, in the bid documents that we provide. And so, and I don't want to get too far over my skis here, but, I think the basis of Kerr's protest was that there were items in the bid schedule that they believe will be higher than what the quantities were that we provided in the bid schedule. And so therefore, by Tapani bidding a higher dollar amount for those items, in the long run, those quantities will adjust. And so what we did to evaluate that was there are some items that are measured in the field during construction and some items that are they're called lump sum items. They're just the quantity, the theoretical quantity, and we paid that amount. So we looked at those items that would be measured in the field to ensure that the bid quantities are representative of what we anticipate the actual quantities to be bid to be once the project is built.
And I will add, if the quantities change, that is something that is controllable as part of project management. So as you can appreciate, when a project starts, our best laid plans say we will need X amount of pipe, but something in the field will change and maybe we'll need more or maybe we'll need less. But that is something that happens as part of project coordination. And sometimes if a contractor says, I'm going to be way more on this bid item, we have ways to control that by saying we can change the design, we can change the methods, we can do things to make sure that the public aren't overpaying for the project.
And in fairness to Kerr, they could have assumed the quantity was accurate and made the same claim later to say, hey, you're asking for more, right?
That's correct, and that is why we went back to our engineer of record to say, are these estimates that every bidder had the opportunity to bid on accurate and reasonable? And they confirmed they were. And Commissioner Snyder, you've hit on something that, the public procurement process requires that everyone has the same information, they all provide their bid. So we didn't feel it was reasonable for us to speculate on future possible overruns or underruns when every bidder had the same information and same opportunity to provide bid amounts on those bid items.
My other question is about the question about cost shifting from Beaverton to the county, and Director Roberts, you kind of touched on that, but not as specifically. So the claim that it was a $700,000 cost shift, I don't know which team member would be best to comment on that, but I would like to hear a direct answer to whether that's accurate or not accurate.
I don't have the bid numbers in front of me, but the Beaverton for the Schedule B portion of the work, which was the City of Beaverton water line, Tappanee was significantly lower than the others. I don't know if the $790,000 is the exact number or not. But the other part that wasn't taken into consideration is that the shared costs that aren't specific to Beaverton's work. So mobilization, traffic control, and erosion control, those are all included in the Schedule A items. And those items are, Beaverton is responsible for a portion of those items as well to do the work that's included in Schedule B. And so once you take those into consideration, I think there was about $300,000 in that Schedule A that is Beaverton is responsible for as part of their water line work.
But is that different than the way Kerr responded to the bid? Otherwise, those would be, that would be true for both of them, wouldn't it?
Sorry, can you clarify your question?
I'm trying to figure out whether there's a material difference, and what you just stated and described I understand to be true, but it would be true for all of the bidders unless one bidder did it differently in their bid.
Correct.
So are you saying they did it differently in their bid, or?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, Commissioner, I'll add. I think that yes, there is a difference in the pricing for Schedule A that was, we'll say, roughly in the $700,000 ballpark.
Okay.
And so, for whatever reason, the bid numbers came in differently for Schedule A and Schedule B in these top two bids. And as I said, that's not unusual across multiple large complex projects that we do. There are times where that happens, and so it's not, again, an unusual circumstance for that to happen.
And that does not answer the question about whether they were different. Maybe you can't answer that today, and maybe I don't need to know that. But
I think potential is that a portion of that Schedule B work Tappanee may have included in their prices that they submit in the Schedule A work. So they might put more in their mobilization, which would fall under Schedule A, and less in the pipe work. And so you can't look at each schedule individually and independently.
Those are all my questions.
Yeah.
Since Commissioner Willie seems to have questions that factor off of Commissioner Snyder's questions, I'm going to do something unusual and call on him next.
Thank you. And this will be quick. Just for clarification, it sounds to me like one contractor interpreted Beaverton's cost at X and another contractor interpreted it differently, making a $700,000 differential, which is why Kerr is saying we will pay more because Beaverton's going to pay less based on their allocation of who's responsible for the cost between A and B. Mm-hmm. So it's an interpretation thing, Jason, that I was understanding this to be a contractor interpretation between the two was significantly different. And since the bid differential is only $145,000, that would be a swing position. Mm-hmm. So I guess my comment would be, if you've interpreted that the contractor that we awarded this to or trying to award this to is accurate, I would hope that somebody doesn't come back to us subsequently and say, oops, there was a problem. It's not Beaverton, it's county, because somebody else is going to eat that cost from my standpoint.
Yeah, that's a good point, Commissioner. Once the bid is awarded, it's done. So there won't be material changes in the distribution of the costs unless there is some unknown, unforeseen field circumstance that would dictate that. But we're not anticipating that to be the case here.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Fye, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciated hearing the testimony from the two individuals. We don't often hear from the public questioning LUT, so it's a healthy question. And I think you came prepared and you answered, and I don't have any reason to be further suspicious. So I think this discussion was very helpful, and I appreciated Commissioner Willie pulling this aside, and we were having side conversation. I was like, yeah, go for it. I do want to hear what the staff have to say. But it sounds like you all did your due diligence, and I think I appreciated hearing from Stephen Roberts. Your first comment was, when we first heard their protest, we immediately did analysis and further investigation. So kudos to you all, and I intend to support moving forward.
So first, I wanted to note we were just having questions. So thank you, Commissioner Fye, for getting us to comments. And I would like to open the first, Commissioner Treese graciously let me know that she didn't have any questions, but I'd like to open the floor back to the remaining four for your closing comments. Commissioner Treese.
Thank you. I did have a question, but it was answered. And it was about the Schedule A, Schedule B. So thank you for that, and thank you for the work. I appreciate Kerr coming in and stating their case, and I will be supporting the process that you've followed. Thank you.
Commissioner Snyder or Willie, do you have any closing comments?
No, I'll be supporting moving forward. Made sense.
Me too. I'm good.
I want to thank our staff for being able to pivot and ensure that we had the benefit of good information in order for us to act in a timely manner. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you again for the opportunity.
You bet. Now, with that, I would ask for a motion to approve the bid award and execute the contract for the Walker Road 185th Avenue to 173rd Avenue project number $100,315.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, everyone. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And the reason I wanted to make sure I got all the details correct on that motion is because we have another major project right along Walker Road and the Murray Road intersection, not to be confused with this one. So there you have it. So that brings us to board announcements for today's meeting.
Madam Chair, the second public comment.
Public communication. Thank you so much. So I stand corrected. Thank you very much, everyone. Now we have our second public comment period for today's meeting. So this is open to folks who did not speak to us earlier in the meeting. And this is an opportunity for up to 5 minutes an individual to share your thoughts on any county-related topic you wish. Clerk Moss, who do we have signed up for today?
Thank you, Chair Harrington. We had two signed up, Rebecca Green and Sarah Genta. Are you both still here?
Sarah, you're up second, so Ms. Green, you're first.
Chair Harrington, Vice Chair Willie, County Administrator Angie, and other members of the Commission, thank you for this time and opportunity in which to address you. My name is Rebecca Green, and I have lived in Washington County for 20 years. Dr. Douglas Frank testified before you recently. During a speaking event the prior evening, 3 random volunteers provided their addresses for him to review with the audience with respect to Washington County voter rolls analysis. He told you the very first address reviewed exposed a case of election fraud. That case was mine. As I reviewed my address on the voter roll that Dr. Frank projected on the screen, the first thing I noticed was that 3 people are currently registered there, myself and 2 previous owners shown as inactive. I have lived there since September 2021. Should 4.5 years not be sufficient time to remove those names and address records from the voter rolls? There was also a 4th person I don't know registered there as inactive until this year. As I reviewed my voting history that spanned that address and a previous address, I was alarmed to see the record shows I had voted in the 2020 general election. I did not vote in the 2020 general election. From February 2020 until June 2021, I was in California as primary caregiver for my mother in the final year of her life, with intermittent return trips to Oregon for personal health and home appointments before returning to caregiving in California. When I returned to California October 4th of 2020, I remained there through year's end. While the world reeled from COVID and the response to it over those months, I made numerous requests with USPS to manage mail forwarding to a friend's home. I never received a 2020 ballot. I am told in-state ballots were mailed out October 14th, 2020. Thank you to the election integrity team in Washington County. By law, ballots are not forwarded. But in case of anomaly, I asked my friend if she recalled getting a ballot for me, and she said she never received a ballot. I have the documented request to the USPS to resume forwarding on October 5th, 2020. I find it disturbing that someone appears to have used my ballot to cast a vote in my name. I have obtained records from the 2020 election that the ballot in my name was received and accepted October 27th, 2020. Again, while I was in California. I would like to turn all this over to the Sheriff of Washington County. How did my ballot pass the signature review? To how many other unsuspecting voters has this happened? It's unacceptable that a completed ballot shows as having been cast in this instance. And if it's an excursion of data, it calls into question a foundation of what we use to justify the security of our elections, in my view. Voters deserve a truly secure election. Another more recent story for you now. For today's election, I received 2 ballots. I changed my party affiliation this year on April 23rd, 2026. So 1 ballot came in for my non-affiliated party affiliation, and the other for my new party affiliation. Then another was printed, and I'm wondering, should not the deadline and process to change a party leading up to an election also include the assurance that only the ballot with the latest party affiliation is being mailed out for the sake of clean ballot chain of custody? Through my personal experience, our election system appears far from safe and secure. As county leaders, I ask you to protect the votes of the citizens and avoid risk of dilution or replacement of those citizens' votes. We have an election going on today. How can the elections office prove unsuspecting citizens have not had their ballots cast fraudulently? It is one thing to market that everything is safe and secure. It's another thing to prove it. I would like to see the proof, and I believe Washington County as a whole would benefit from seeing the proof in the form of independent audits of our voter rolls and ballot chain of custody hygiene. I am grateful to the Washington County Election Integrity Team today for their work and what they do. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts and experience with us. Ms. Ginta, you're up next. I'm sorry, Ms. Ginta. You have testimony related to a campaign item, and I'd wish to confer with County Council first.
This has to do with election integrity and ethics violations involving one of the commissioners I'm sitting before. I hope you don't squash my constitutional right to speak about it. Everyone can go to type in Pam Treese on Instagram or Facebook and find it. This is an ODOT complaint I submitted yesterday. This is an ethics violation about the election taking place today. Someone projected an ad onto the front face of the Vista Bridge Tunnel on Highway 26 Saturday night saying Pam Treese for commissioner.
So, Ms. Green, the problem is that the handout that you gave us is advocating for how people should vote.
No, you know what? Take it and rip it up, and then I'll just proceed to talk. No one else has seen it. You guys only saw it, so just take it up and I'll proceed to talk.
Okay.
Very good?
As long as you're not directing people to vote a certain way.
No, I'm not.
That's fine. Thank you very much for clarifying and correcting the matter.
You could have asked me.
Please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Hello. I am here today for a public service announcement. Okay, public service announcement about ethics violation in campaigns in Washington County. Although it also happens to involve Multnomah County. It's almost as juicy as the ethics violation about the Clean Water Services scandal with people taking trips to Hawaii on the taxpayer's dollar. This involves a commissioner whose last name rhymes with police. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say her name or not.
Ms. Green.
My name is not Miss Green.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so this follows the rules for thee, but not for me. It's a theme that we see in political campaigns. There was a projection of a campaign ad on Highway 26 Saturday night. It was historically documented by somebody who must have run across the highway with a projector and a camera, set it up in the Meridian, projected this sign onto the front face of the Vista Bridge Tunnel surface. Seems very dangerous to the person who did it and to the drivers being distracted by such a sign. I'm a little confused about what I am allowed to say and not allowed to say. I'm not advocating for any candidate. I'm just reporting on facts. The fact is, I saw an Instagram post. It's still up. It probably won't be up for much longer after I talk about it. But that's okay because I screen captured it. It's also on Facebook. I also screen captured it. I sent it to ODOT because this is not in keeping with the Washington County, Oregon guidelines for political campaign signage. It's probably not in keeping with Multnomah County either, where freeway-oriented signs are prohibited. So somebody on this council running for the chair, and it's not Nafisa, has this on their Facebook page.
Come on, Ms. Ginta.
I'm not advocating for anybody. I'm saying I'm
really
giving factual information. Am I not allowed to say the name of the person whose name was projected onto the face of the bridge?
You are
over
allowed
tunnel?
to file your assertions with the appropriate authorities. You should do so in writing, making allegations today during a public meeting.
Well, okay, so anybody who
campaign-related
has a phone
event.
right now, which is like a mini computer these days, can open up their Facebook account or their Twitter account and type in hashtag ProjectorGate. That's hashtag Projector, PROJECTOR, Gate, GATE, or hashtag Queen Treese, QUEENTREECE, and find the images that I submitted to ODOT as campaign violations and as safety violations. So this is the rules for thee but not for me problem on this commission.
No, we're talking about public
safety
comment during a public meeting during a campaign season. That is the issue.
It's about ethics violations, which there's been a problem with ethics violations with this commission already, and the voters should know about it when it continues to happen. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's dangerous that someone ran out into the middle of the meridian. I assume they were running in the night, across Highway 26, set up a projector, and then took a picture of the image they projected onto the surface of the front face of the Vista Bridge tunnel.
So I would just ask that if you have an ethics claim to file, you wouldn't file it with ODOT, you would file it with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission.
Oh, that's good to know. Everybody hear that? We could all file it as citizens of Oregon with the ethics, what is it now?
The Oregon Ethics Commission.
Oregon Ethics Commission. And if you want to find out what I'm talking about, hashtag ProjectorGate, hashtag Queen Trees, or just type in Pam Trees, and she'll come up on X, which formerly known as Twitter, and you'll see the violation that occurred.
The alleged violation.
All right. Well, I didn't make it up. I found it on someone's campaign pages on social media.
Today. Thank you.
It's disgraceful.
Thank you, Clerk Moss.
Okay. Is there any other member in the auditorium that wish to provide public comment on any calendar-related item for up to 5 minutes? Raise your hand, start coming forward. Not seeing any in the room. Is there any member online who should provide public comment to end our meeting for up to 5 minutes on any calendar-related topic? I'll give you just a moment to utilize raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Chair Harrington.
Thank you. That's the end of public comment for today. Next, I'll move on to board announcements in the proper place. Our future meetings are as thus. Tomorrow, Wednesday, May 20th, we have budget committee hearings. That would be for the Washington County and Service District Lighting Number 1. That starts in the afternoon. And in the morning, we will have our 2 service district budget committees, the combined Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, Urban Road Maintenance District Budget Committees, and the North Bethany Service District for Roads. Those meetings start at 9 a.m. You can find information on the county's website, washingtoncountyor.gov. Next Tuesday, please remember, next Monday, May 25th, is a federal and state holiday, Memorial Day. So we'll have our next set of business meetings, as usual, on Tuesday, May 26th. We will have a joint annual meeting of the Washington County Board of County Commissioners and the Fair Board, starting at 1 p.m. time certain. We will begin the Board of Commissioners work session, time certain, at 2 p.m. In the evening, we'll have the Clean Water Services Board of Directors business meeting starting at 5:30, and the Washington County Board business meeting starting at 6:30. Then we're into the month of June. Tuesday, June 2nd, we'll start the county work session at 9 a.m., pause that, then convene in the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting at 10 a.m., and do the budget adoption for all of, no, it's not budget adoption. We'll have our board meeting immediately following the Chabad meeting. On Thursday, June 4th, we'll have a commissioners roundtable starting at 9 a.m. That is likely on track to be just a morning meeting. But stay tuned to the final posted agenda. On Tuesday, June 9th, we have the Clean Water Services Board of Directors meeting at 9 a.m. It's big budget approval day. So, no, that's also on the 16th. I was given some bad notes here, folks. Tuesday, June 9th, let's start over. Clean Water Services Board of Directors meeting at 9 a.m. Then immediately following that, we'll have the Clean Water Services Board of Directors work session. And then following the board meeting, we'll reconvene as the Washington County Board of Commissioners in a work session, certainly no later than 11:30 a.m. On Tuesday, June 16th, that is the big budget adoption day. We'll have a work session for Washington County Board of Commissioners starting at 9. We'll pause that and go to the board meeting at 10 a.m., and that's where we have various public hearings on all parts of our budgets and adopt that day. On Tuesday, June 23rd, we have the Board of Commissioners work session starting at 2 in the afternoon. Then we have the Clean Water Services Board of Directors meeting at 5:30 p.m. and the Washington County Board Business meeting at 6:30 p.m. Could that be any more confusing? So hopefully it will get corrected in today's meeting packet. So that's it for board announcements from me. Any others, colleagues? No, seeing none, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. We're hereby adjourned. Thank you.